Hey everyone, it's Greg from the OJSeez, a jazz tourist. Welcome back. Today I'll be doing another video in this series of jazz record store walks. And before we get into it, if you've been enjoying my videos, make sure to give me a thumbs up, to subscribe, and let's get right into it. Jazz Record Walks Paris. Okay, here's the center of Paris, of course. With the islands in the middle of the Seine. So I always think it's a bit strange, right? Like, why don't I call this south and north? But apparently it's this is the left bank over here, which is where many of the prestigious universities are, and many cultural institutions as well in Paris. And on this side, which looks like it's the north bank, but hey, whatever. Referred to as the right bank, or rive droite in French. And so what I want to do for the video is just to kind of talk, as I've done in my other videos, so please check them out. I've got a couple videos on walks in Toronto, here where I live, and also a walk on the East End of London, which is a really great, fun afternoon to spend in that city as well, looking through record stores and digging for jazz records. So anyway, let's get back to the map. And so I have, how many? I've got 7 record stores I want to go through. Of course, this is a selection. Feel free to drop a note in the comment section below, talking about, of course, what I've talked about today, but also if I've missed some of your favorite record stores from Paris, absolutely. Please let us know what else this city has to offer. But these tend to be, so I've kind of selected these because, again, because I think they have good jazz collections, and B, they're also kind of clustered together, so they make for a nice walk. And for me, Paris is all about walking. It's about just going, checking it out, bumping into new places, checking out the sites, looking at the city from different perspectives, and finding new wonderful things about the city of Paris. All right, so let's zoom in here. Let's start with our first stop. Will be here again on the left bank, one of the most well-known stores in Paris, and that is called the Paris Jazz Center. So let's just orient ourselves a little bit here. I'm going to say, let's try to find, so Place Monge. Okay, so on the metro line number 7, the pink line is a good place to go to get on, to find your way to the Jazz Center. So Place Monge is a great place to jump off. Or Cardinal, oh no, that's not right. Anyway, well, let's call that one up. Cardinal Lemoine, which is on line 10. Those seem to be the closest ones. This is a great area over here of Paris. I just want to point out a couple other places along the way when you want to grab a coffee or a lunch or a drink. So the Mouffetard is a great place. Here's this kind of the center of the Mouffetard, or sometimes referred to here as Contrescarpe or the Place de Contrescarpe. It's a great place to sit down and have a coffee, either in the morning or in the afternoon, the evening, when people start to order glasses of wine. This is and it's up a hill, so you can't really see it here, but there's a wonderful hill up here. Great place to hang out, people watch, check out your purchases. So highly recommend Place de Contrescarpe. And also this street that goes all the way down here is called the Mouffetard, and I think it used to be kind of a market street, and it still is to an extent. There are a lot of butchers and places to buy fish and what have you. Poissonnerie. So that's also a great street to check out, again, right next to where we're going to be starting our jazz record store walk, which again is Paris Jazz Corner. Paris Jazz Corner has been around. What a great photo, huh? It's been around since, I believe it's 2001. There may be, there may be some blues in there, but I'm going to say 90% of what you find in the store is jazz records. It's funny, I spoke about this on my top 5 international jazz records, but I'll just repeat it quickly here, that I think there's a very small new arrivals bin. I think there's kind of right up front. It's not super well marked. And the reason why, I'll click on this photo, is often because there are just these piles, as you can see here in this photo, just piles of new arrivals kind of packed up. And often these new arrivals, these piles, are also packed on top of the actual bin of new arrivals. So it's a little disorienting. You walk in, there's just bins and bins and bins, but there's, hopefully there's many of these piles as well. So people just kind of stand there and kind of move them over to wherever there's space. But also, I encourage you to check out the new arrivals right at the front of the store. So roughly kind of over here. Here's the main door. You come in, and they're right about here. Let me see if I can find another photo. That one's pretty good. Anyway, so I've already said, so it's one of the older stores in Paris. It has a nice vibe. It tends to be pretty quiet in there. I don't usually go during the day on the weekends. I tend to go later at night. But that's one of the best things about the store, is that it's open, I think, till at least 8 o'clock during the week, and 7 p.m. at night on the weekend, on Saturday at least. So it tends to be really quiet. The owner's a quiet guy. I've never really tried to engage him that much. That's kind of not my thing. I know other people like to go in there and kind of get to know the owner or what have you, but that's kind of not necessarily what I'm there for. But of course, I'll always say hi. I'll speak French to him, or try to speak French to him. But he does speak a little bit of English. His English is okay, and is a friendly guy. Anyway, so. I'm going to say that, so it's a friendly place. There's lots of room to maneuver around, and you're there to find jazz records. So what next? So the collection and the prices. I find actually that the new arrivals tend to be relatively well priced. I'm going to say in general that I'm going to kind of step back a second and say, in general, the prices in Paris are not great for good used jazz records. They tend to be quite expensive. I would say slightly less expensive than London, which I find to be one of the most expensive places to collect, and also probably on par with what you're going to find on most record stores in New York City as well. So again, it's hard to find deals here, but because you're in Paris, you're going to find, of course, a lot of French issues, which are hard to find elsewhere. Different versions of LPs. So that's what I tend to do. I also like to collect LPs, buy LPs here that are kind of live in France, live in Paris. Kind of live LPs that are, of course, recorded in France, that are much harder to find elsewhere. So the collection is quite extensive. In the general bins, I find it's kind of hit and miss. Again, I tend to stick to, again, the piles, as you can see here, and also the new arrivals bin. And I'm going to say every time I come here, I pick up 1 or 2 LPs. So it's definitely on my list. It's not far from where I stay with family. You can spend, hours here, but I usually just kind of jump in, see what's in the new arrivals, and then head off. Okay, so where else are we going to go here? Let's open this up and go to our next stop, which is very nicely tagged here, called La Dame Blanche. So how are we going to get up there? This is a little trickier. I tend to kind of, again, go take this walk up here, or even this walk up here, up to the Mouffetard, maybe grab a lunch or something, a coffee, and then walk along. You can see here that I've tagged a nice pub called the Mayflower, which has a lot of great Belgian beers, actually. Tick along down this road and do a little Yui. There's a couple nice pubs in this area as well, I'm going to say. But anyway, the Hurling Pub, an Irish pub, and I think there's another Irish pub up here. but this is not a pub tour. This is a record store tour. Anyway, let's check out La Dame Blanche. It's a smaller shop. Let's see if it's. My sense has been around for a long time, but they don't have a website, so I couldn't find out any information. But it's owned and run by an elderly gentleman. Speaks English. Often starts to speak English to me. I've been in there. I don't know how many times. I'm going to say I've been in there like 25 times. He never recognizes me. I tend to switch to French, and he warms up a little bit. But anyway, really, really friendly guy. The thing that I really love about this shop, which is kind of roughly split between jazz and classical, I'm going to say. Most of the jazz is up front, the new arrivals are up front, and most of the classical is over to the left in the back. It's not a huge store, but it's really, I wouldn't say it's curated, but it has these. Let me see if I can find it here in the pictures. It's kind of hard now to see. Well, I think that's maybe the best one here. Well, it's not great. Anyway, this is what you see when you come into the store. And if you look on the right hand side here down these bins, they're in these wooden boxes that pull out. So again, the owner, whenever I go in there and I start to flip through the jazz bins, the owner always says, those come out, you can pull them out. It's just a little, I love it because they're made out of wood, and it's just a nice touch, and it's something you don't find obviously in many stores. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen this in a store, but it's just, that feeling when you kind of pull something out a little bit too far and it's quite heavy. You always have the feeling that it's going to fall on you. Anyway, so the vibe there is wonderful. Like I said, the owner is really an interesting guy. Likes to chat. He always likes to ask what you're looking for. He always talks about how he has an online store as well. He always kind of gestures to the back when he says that. I also have an online store, and he always gestures to the back, and I think, can I come back and check? But I've never actually checked out his online store. So La Dame Blanche, have a check on Discogs and see what you can find. I've never done that, but I find like he's probably got about 6 or 7 used bins. He has some newer stuff. He typically has some good prices on Sam records that I've tend to buy here as well, and has a mix of kind of French issues, reissues, some American issues. So I don't typically find tons here, but it really depends again on kind of what collection he's just bought. And it's just an interesting place. And again, it's kind of along the way. So I would recommend it just because it's a friendly place, and it's a beautiful store. It's an older store. It's a welcoming store. So that's La Dame Blanche. Okay. Let's back up a little bit again just to kind of orient ourselves. All right, so the Paris Jazz Corner was over here. We've walked up to the Mouffetard, maybe had a coffee here, and then we've walked along the street to La Dame Blanche, which is still a little bit up on the hill. So what you want to do is you want to walk down this street here, over to, here we go, Rue des Écoles, okay, which is one of the major kind of university streets in Paris. You have the Collège de France here, Lycée Saint-Louis, and and then you also have Université de Paris and other major universities further down the Rue des Écoles. But what you want to do is there actually are a few record stores down here, and there's a lot of bookstores. So if you're looking for bookstores, this is a place to be as well. There's some French cinema, kind of independent cinema stores. So it's a great place to check out kind of the French cultural scene. Like I said, there are a couple smaller stores along the way. Some come and go. Some have had some collectibles, but they've opened and closed again, mostly during COVID. I've noticed some bookstores you can pop into and you might see some records. So just keep an eye out for that. But like I said, they kind of come and go. But the major store that you want to check out is this one called Croco Disc. All right. And there's kind of two stores side by side. One is, I'm going to say, more of a um, rock store, rock music, rock and pop. And then the other one is more blues, jazz, and world music. So this is very friendly. Uh, there's always customers in there who obviously know the owners really well. So there's always lots of banter. So I find it interesting to go in there and kind of listen to conversations, even though I'm kind of focusing on digging there just to kind of get a sense as to what people are talking about. But again, I skip the rock store. I don't think I ever go in there and go straight over to the jazz. The one thing I have to say about Crocodisc is that they have so many albums that, and other people talk about this all the time. I don't think this is a French thing. It's not a Japanese thing or an American thing. It's just whatever. Certain owners just like to absolutely pack in their records. And this place has to be like the biggest culprit, So it's really, really hard. Plus you're bending the vinyl. So it's like, I don't want to hurt the vinyl. Anyway, but they have probably about 3 or 4 really quite deep bins of jazz there. They have a lot of kind of reissues that I don't, and again, live LPs that I haven't seen anywhere else. They're almost always in very good condition here. I'm going to say that's the kind of big thumbs up there. There's also, as I said before, there's a really interesting kind of world music, but I'm going to say it's more African music. So that's also a big interest of mine. So I tend to go to Crocodisc when I see there's some new African music that's been reissued. Mr. Bongo and other labels as such. It's a good place to go. Prices here are okay. Sometimes you can find some deals on LPs here. So usually I pop in here and get 1 or 2. Again, tend to be more African LPs, but I have gotten some Herbie Hancock LPs, some promo LPs here as well. So it's really you kind of have to dig and maybe try to move some stuff out so you can see them, and there's stuff to be found here, and the prices I'm going to say are not too bad. So that is Croco Disc. All right. Okay, so then the question is, where do we go from Crocodisc? Here on the left bank. Again, I'm a walker. So, but really, the where we want to end up is over here at Bettino's. But let's let's go all the way up to Sam Records, which is way up here. So what I would recommend is finding your way from over on the left bank over to one of these. Sorry, either Temple or Republique. Either of those. See, there's like 3 lines there. There's a 3 there as well. So there's plenty of connections right next to. I'm sorry, right next to Sam Records. All right, well, just down the road from Sam Records, or you can be right next to Sam Records at the Metro line number 5, Bon Sergent. Okay, so I'll be honest, I've never been to Sam Records, but and there are many other videos online talking about Sam Records. He reissues his own records. The problem with Sam Records is, for me, is, well, you can see here, hours may be incorrect. They're almost always open here we go, just on the weekend. Yeah, so they're open 1 to 7:30 on Friday and 11 to 7:30 on Saturday. So it's just open 2 afternoons into the evening. And so this is principally why I've never made it there. I'm busy on the weekends, or in fact, I'm traveling on weekends. Usually I travel in or I leave Paris on the weekends for a bunch of reasons. Anyway, but I would highly recommend Sam Records. They do have, like I said, their own reissues. Check out their website. Here it is, samrecords.com. .fr. Let's just quickly, let's see if that shows up. There we go. So there's a nice selection. There's a nice list of LPs here online that you can also find in the shop. Sometimes there's discounts. Sometimes there's other reissues from other presses at Sam's as well. One thing to note, thank you, Sam Records, is that Parisians like to take extended holidays in the summer, often for the entire month or a good part of the month of August. But here you can see that the owner has put up that he's going to be away from the 18th to the 18th. So I'd always check. You may want to, even if it's out of the way, you may want to even call in advance to see if they're open, because sometimes people don't update, owners don't update their Google website, which is where I usually check out the hours of business. So remember that if you're going to Paris in the summer, particularly if you're going in late July or in August, a lot of stores are closed. So we're at Sam Records. We finished with Sam. We're going to head over past the Théâtre de Renaissance, down the street here, and over to, what do we got here? We have Superfly. All right, let's click there. Superfly Records. Boom. All right, okay. So Superfly, I would say, great vibe there. More of a younger crowd. I'm going to say that it's more of a kind of a DJ friendly, curated space. There's some. Let's go inside here. Find a nice photo so you can see the inside. There we go. Much like any other store, you walk in. There's the new arrivals are right in front of you. Over to the left. Over in this direction behind this fella here, or this person here is the cash, and behind the cash, that was bad. Behind the cash are a number of rare records, including on the wall. Sorry, everyone. And then you can see quite a few number of jazz bins here as well. There's a nice selection of Latin music, and African, rare groove, soul, funk, fusion, jazz, rock. So on the opposite side, where these folks here are the gender neutral folks here over on the right are digging is kind of is also a jazz selection. I think there's vocal, and like I said before, fusion, jazz, rock, maybe French jazz, so on and so forth. So they usually have a really great selection here. The prices are hit and miss. They're okay, just like any store that's focused particularly on subgenres of jazz, funk, and soul, rare groove. You know, you're paying. The prices are, are a little bit above the kind of average on Discogs, but there's tons of stuff here that you're not going to find elsewhere. Again, depending on when you go. What's arrived, all that kind of stuff as well. But I like their focus, right? A more kind of soulful, more kind of funkier, more African jazz. That's like the way they've kind of curated this store and what they've focused on. So they also have a lot of new releases as well. So you can listen to LPs here. There is a kind of a convention in not all, but in a number of the stores in Paris that they'll open up one copy of a new arrival or reissue or a new issue, and you can use that one, pull it down and listen to it. So you can spend a lot of time in stores like Superfly listening to new issues or new reissues. So that's what I actually really enjoy about Paris record stores, is just that ability to start to check stuff out. Of course, you can stand there with your iPhone and your mobile phone, your smartphone, and kind of check out Discogs and listen to stream stuff on the spot. But that's obviously not a substitute for pulling something down, looking at it, looking at the label, listening to it, just taking your time. And so that's what I love about Superfly. Again, usually a very good selection, very friendly place, and always interesting set of people there as well. So that is Superfly. All right, let's move on over to actually two of my I'm going to say favorite stores in Paris. Oh, well, they've all been my favorite stores so far, actually. So Superfly, it's a little bit of a walk here, so it's a good time to maybe pull over for a lunch, but have a walk along here back to the making your way over to Boulevard de Voltaire over here. Okay, past Place de la République, a very large square. I believe there's a column in the middle, and you want to head over here. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You want to head to Listen Vinyl Record Store. Now, Listen it hasn't been around for that long. I'm going to say it's been around for about maybe 5 years. I think they opened up, just searching here for a good photo inside. Anyway, that one's okay. I'm going to say that that they opened up just before COVID. And I'm going to say it really kind of struck me more as kind of an American or kind of a New York styled record store. Much more curated. They've got one wall of rare records that's mostly pop and rock. So when you walk in the store, it's on the right hand side, and then if you turn to the left, you'll see the wall. I know we're looking the opposite way, so that's why I'm doing my best to confuse you here. You'll see kind of more of the soul, funk, jazz kind of wall. Check them out on Instagram too, and I'll make sure to put all the links below, so feel free to peruse that list of links as well after you watch the video and after you've given a thumbs up and subscribed. But they've got a great selection of used jazz here, and they've got bins that are organized by labels. So they've got, of course, they've got Blue Note. I think they've got a Japanese Blue Note bin, Impulse, ECM, so on and so forth. I don't think they've got Riverside or other ones, but they've got at least Impulse, ECM, and Blue Note. They may have more. I haven't been for about a year, so I could update later this fall when I go and check it out again. But yeah, so really, really fabulous selection of American and European issues of Blue Note and other great jazz labels as well. So frankly, I find it difficult. This is a difficult place. I often stand there with like 5 or 6 LPs that I pulled out, and then I start to go through my Discogs and look at the prices, which can be okay, but of course the more difficult it is to find these, the rarer the LPs. It goes without saying. You're going to spend. If you take cash, you could probably chat with the owner about a deal, and I've done that before, and they've been friendly about that. But yeah, a lot of LPs I just haven't found elsewhere find its way to Listen. So if you like to collect more on the rare side of things, if you're looking for a particular 60s hard bop, I'm going to say this is a great place to go. And again, just check out their Instagram. I think they do a really good job of updating their Instagram. You get a sense as to kind of inventory that they get there. Really nice owner. Can't remember, do I speak to him in English? I think so. I think we just go back and forward. So friendly guy. Asked him about the history of the store. Really, really nice guy. I think he gave me his number, and yeah. So I've been back probably 3 or 4 times, and usually walk out with at least 1 or 2 LPs. So Listen Records, fabulous place to go. Highly recommend it. All right. Now the last store. No, I've got one last store, and then I want to talk about one last store that I'll recommend, and then I want to talk about another store that I'm kind of on the fence about, or at least I'm not entirely sure about. Okay, so the last store I want to highly recommend is Bettino's. If you go back to my video page, you'll see that Bettino's made my top 5 most favorite record stores. So if you want to know a little bit more about them, and I think I tell a couple funny stories about Bettino's, But Bettino's is, I think the best thing about Bettino's is they don't have a huge selection of jazz, but they have a lot of, like I was saying with Superfly, they have a lot of um, rare reissues, and they also had a lot of reissues from Brazil and South America, Colombia, Peru as well, Mexico. So there's a lot of stuff here that I just haven't seen elsewhere, that are from some labels, some small labels in Paris, including Bettino. Bettino's, they also have their own label, so they're quite well networked, excuse me, into the music scene in Paris. Here, let me find a. There's a nice view from outside, and you can kind of see all the new arrivals up on the wall. Again, as I said before, with Superfly, there'll always be one copy of a new arrival that you can take out and listen to. The owner is super, super friendly. It's usually the owner or one or two other folks working there. They're always really, really nice, super friendly, very welcoming. I always like to strike up a conversation. Usually speaks to me in English, and then I flip to French, and we kind of talk about what's going on with record collecting, other stores, the music scene, jazz, the live jazz scene in Paris. So I was really, really friendly. Owners there, great selection. They do have some rare jazz on the wall behind the counter, and I have bought off them from before. There are about 4 or 5 bins in the back of jazz, which are a little bit more hit and miss. But it's always on my list to drop by, just to mostly to check out their new stuff, and I want to support them because they're just such a great store. And I also believe that it's their 20th or 25th anniversary now. Anyway, Bettino's, absolutely one of my favorite places to spend at least an hour, if not a couple hours, really going through and listening to those copies of new, mostly rare reissues. So highly recommend Bettino's Record Shop to you. All right, so those are the stores that I really highly recommend in Paris. If you go down this neighborhood, what's this? I forget the name of this street, and it's not popping up here for me. Yeah, it's Voltaire Boulevard, Voltaire. If you continue on down Voltaire and head your way down here, this is actually an interesting neighborhood, particularly at the bottom here. As we get closer to Heartbeat Vinyl, there's a lot of artisan shops and art ateliers, workshops, and stores down here, particularly on the street here as well. So I highly recommend just having a walk through this neighborhood. It's really interesting. Not a lot of places to eat or to have drinks, but it's just an interesting kind of art neighborhood. So Heartbeat Vinyl. Maybe just to wrap up here, encourage you just to check out their website. I've been in a couple times. Again, I think if you check out their website, check out their Google webpage and their reviews, that'll tell you all you need to know. It's a great selection. I think the owner, some folks don't relate to the owner very well. I don't like to comment on that stuff as much because people have different needs, and sometimes people who buy records are not friendly people sometimes. But anyway, so I don't want to comment on that. But they do have a good selection of kind of rare groove and jazz as well. My only issue with this store is that the prices were really quite high. And to be honest, so I've only been a couple times, and I flipped through. And again, I like to go to stores just see what they have, but I'm not going to go out of my way to go there again, just because I found that the prices to be well above even the maximum prices that you see on Discogs. So if you have some time, if you're heading in that direction, I encourage you to check it out. If things have changed, if their pricing has gotten a little friendlier, please feel free to leave me a comment below. I hope you've enjoyed this edition of Jazz Record Store Walk Paris version. I'll be posting more of these. Look out for more versions of walks in London, in Stockholm, Amsterdam, more cities. Great to see you again. Take care, everyone.